Today I'll be teaching how to photograph paintings with your smartphone, not just showing you how I do it, but also explaining concepts that you can apply into your space. We'll be addressing common issues like glare, lighting, and getting the colors right. You can see here that this painting has a lot of glare on it, and we'll be taking care of that very soon. And my name is Daniel Folta. I like to help people see, whether it's through painting or coaching others to become great painters themselves. I take photos of my paintings with my phone pretty often, though I do also know how to take photos with a DSLR, so I'll be able to merge those skills together into this video. Taking photos with your phone is just incredibly convenient, and you can get a very high quality image with your phone if you know what you're doing, which hopefully I can show you today. And the one thing I would say is that if you're trying to make prints, then probably better not to use a phone to take that photo. But if you're trying to upload your art to social media or to send your artwork to someone who can take a look at it for you, give you feedback, then taking a photo with your phone is a really convenient way to go. So let's start with the setup. Your setup needs to prioritize three things: having enough light, shining at a good angle that's evenly lit on the painting. And the most important of those is having enough light. Light is visual information. We can't see without light. Our camera can't see without light. And so generally speaking, the more light that you have shining on your painting, the better the photograph is going to be. And this is true of painting in general. You want to have a lot of light shining on your painting so that you can see the colors accurately. My room here doesn't have the best lighting, and so I use these two studio lights both for when I paint and when I photograph my work. Now, these lights pick up a full color spectrum, showing the colors accurately with a color rendering index of 97. If you're using a basic fluorescent bulb, then you might be only getting 50% of the color spectrum. So if you're going to be looking into getting some lights for painting and for photographing your work, then you're going to want to have something with a CRI of 90 or above. And that's not to say that you have to have lights like these. There's many ways to get good lighting in your studio. I do recommend good lighting in your studio for painting. Taking photographs with your phone, you should be able to get pretty decent results, even if you don't have a high CRI, but you do need to have enough light shining on the painting. Now, you also have to have the right angle. This painting has a lot of light on it, but the angle is wrong, creating a lot of glare. The painting should be upright and the light source 60 to 80 degrees from the painting. Note that you can move the light or the painting to accomplish this, but I need to talk about what happens if your angle is too low or too high. And before I explain this, remember that the light travels from its source, bounces off of things, and then enters into your eye, or in this case, a camera. If we have a light at 30 degrees, it shines on the painting, but then bounces with full force into the camera, creating glare. Now, if we shine the light from, say, 70 degrees, the glaring light bounces downwards, too far away from the camera to pick up. So it might be said that the more obtuse the angle is, the less glare you're going to get. This now looks much better. But another problem occurs when the light is so obtuse that it's raking across the texture of the painting. This is particularly bad with canvas. This canvas isn't flat. It has tiny ridges and valleys. When the angle is too steep, the light can no longer illuminate those valleys, which creates shadows. And the painting you've made gets lost under this textured pattern. So the ballpark range of 60 to 80 degrees should be enough to eliminate glare while also being able to shine into every nook and cranny of your painting. And if your painting is smoother material like this gesso board, then you can afford a steeper angle. And finally, the painting needs to be evenly lit. In order to have enough light, you might be tempted to put the light source really close to your painting. But this creates another problem, where one side of the painting will be brighter than the other. So the further away your light is, the more evenly lit it's going to be. Another way to get even lighting is to use indirect lighting. If I swivel my lights to face the ceiling, maintaining the same angle, the light will be more diffused as it shines on the painting, which creates less glare and less drop-off. My ceiling is pretty high, so I might not have enough light to make this work, but we'll see. So with all those things in mind, you're going to have to get creative about how you apply those three goals into your specific studio. But I'm going to now get off the chair and take a photograph and walk you through how I do it for my specific space. Now this painting has quite a bit of dust along the edges here, so I'm going to use a tack cloth and very gently just scrub on top of this. This painting I did quite a few years ago. It's a painting from life, and it's just been in a frame, sitting in storage. That's looking a little bit better, and then I'll go wash my hands. Okay, so my room has a can light in each of the corners, and if I took my easel and positioned it directly under the light, that might give me a brighter light, but it might be a little too steep and create some raking light and shadows, or these lights that are back here might be shining at an angle that would create glare. I also have two windows, and it's nighttime right now, but even during daytime, the angle that the light is coming in is so low that if I tried to use it to light this painting, then I would probably get a lot of glare. So I want to have the shades closed. That's also going to give me consistent lighting so that there's not a lot of light beating in the afternoon and changing how I'm perceiving the painting, both in photographing and in making paintings as well. All that to say, I'm glad to have these studio lights, and no, they are not sponsoring me. So I'm going to turn up the brightness to 80. If I go up to 100, I just feel like the light will get harsher and harsher and might catch some specular highlights that I don't want. So I think 80 is going to be sufficient. And then I'm going to bring this temperature up to a neutral 5000 Kelvin. And I'm going to turn off these can lights to start. Want to make sure that I have a controlled lighting environment. Next, I'll raise up these lights, and I'll actually move them to the side of the painting to get an even better angle. And because I have two lights here, I can shine them directly on either side and get really nice, even lighting. You can ask yourself these questions to make sure you have a good angle and placement. Do I see glare on the painting through the camera? Are there lots of tiny shadows or flecks of light accentuating the canvas texture? Does the painting look unevenly lit, bright on one side, dark on another? If you said yes to any of these, the angle or placement needs to be adjusted. Or it could be something else in the room, like light from a window or a ceiling light that's still creating glare and needs to be blocked, either by moving the painting or blocking the light. Well, good morning. It's now daytime. This video has taken me a bit longer to make than I expected, but I've gone into a lot of depth to empower you with understanding. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by all of the things I've been sharing, it's okay. It really is as simple as getting enough light shining at the right angle before taking the shot. And remember that having lots of light is more important than having no glare. Remember, light equals visual information. There are editing tools out there that can help reduce glare, but there are no editing tools that can significantly increase the amounts of light without degrading the quality of your image. It is okay to have a little bit of glare, especially if it's an area that doesn't detract from the main focus of the painting. While it won't be suitable for prints, it will be acceptable for your social media. And now let's talk about taking the shot. There's three more priorities here: white balance and exposure, focus, and framing. Before we start, make sure that your camera's flash is turned off, and turn off any other fancy features like live photo or portrait mode. Now, your smartphone has an automatic white balance and exposure, and I'm going to use this painting to really illustrate this. Notice how when I get really close to the painting so that it's all I see, look at how the colors change drastically. Look at the sky. Look at how all the color in the sky gets lost as I get too close to this. So what's happening here is the camera is searching for white so that it can base all of the other colors off of it. And when I get really close, it doesn't have white at all. And so it's actually thinking that this could be white and then changing all the colors based off of it. So if I zoom out a little bit, it's seeing the little bits of white in the corners, and then it's changing the colors to get a more accurate representation. So the best thing to do to get consistent results is to use a white piece of paper, and you can tape it up near the painting. You want to make sure that it's falling at roughly the same angle as the painting itself, and then make sure that the camera can see it when you take your photograph. And I'm not forgetting to check that I have enough light on the painting itself. Now, when I compare the painting in person to the painting I see through my smartphone, I find that the smartphone is making the painting a little bit brighter, and that might be an indication that I don't have enough light on the painting in person, that this is adjusting for it and increasing the brightness automatically. So I'm going to bring my lights a little bit closer to the painting while maintaining the same angle. I can afford to do this because I have two lights that I can shine from either side, maintaining that even lighting. Your smartphone also has autofocus, and it shouldn't have any problems capturing a sharp image as long as you have enough light. But I can hold my finger down to lock the autofocus, but this is only helpful if you have a tripod, because as you can see, if I'm moving my hands around, then the camera is not going to be adjusting for those slight movements, and it might take a blurry photograph. I can also manually adjust the exposure by tapping on the screen and then dragging down or up. But again, the problem with this is that if I'm moving, then the focus is not going to change and account for that. So I don't tap on the screen at all. This camera is incredible technology, so let it do the work of both the focus and the exposure, and you can help it along with this piece of paper going at the same angle as the painting. So that leaves us with just one thing, getting the framing right. So I want to have a little bit of a margin around the edges so that the camera can see my white piece of paper to get the exposure right. You can see that happening here. But I also want to make sure that my photograph is not going to be skewed. I want to have it at the right angle for a nice even cropping. But I also don't want to be too far away, because the closer I am, the higher resolution that I'll get. The more I can fill my screen with the painting, the higher resolution the image will be. If your painting has a portrait orientation, then rotate your camera so that you can fill most of the screen. Otherwise, you'll be missing out on about half of the available resolution your camera will offer. So I'm lining this up, trying to get nice and even. I'm seeing a bit of a distortion if I get too close, so I'm coming out just a little bit and I'll take the shot. So now I'm going to check and see how I did, to see if all these things are level. So I'll go to edit and go to crop, and I can get a general sense by bringing this up to see how straight my edges are. And wow, this is actually my first try, and this is looking pretty good. It does give me the option to rotate or change the perspective, but I really don't want to mess with these. I would much rather retake the photo if I got it wrong. So I'll go in and crop as little out as I can. We're going to lose some of the edges, but that's okay. They would be lost in a frame as well. And so I'm going to hit done. And when I tap on the screen, I can check to see if there's any slivers of light showing through, and I'm not seeing any. So I am satisfied with that. And let's try this still life painting with the canvas texture, which is kind of like doing this on hard mode. So I noticed that as I get closer, the glare kind of picks up in the top right and left corners. So I do want to be back a little bit further. It also prevents some of that distortion. If you see the edges right here, they kind of bend out as they get closer. So I'm pretty comfortable to be back here. And again, I'm trying to make everything level as I can. I think I'll look at the bottom. Let's just take a look at this. See how we did. Hit done. Now I'm seeing a little bit more glare in these corners with the canvas texture. Maybe I'll try the indirect method to see if I can diffuse the light a little bit better. This is looking a lot better, but what is that glare coming from the top? Is that my computer? Oh, shoot. Okay, computer light is gone, taking the shot. Oh yeah, this looks a lot better. But I wonder if I can diffuse the light with my t-shirt instead. This kind of feels like a fire hazard, but the lights are LED, so they shouldn't be getting too hot. I'll be keeping a close eye on these. This is a lot more glare than I was expecting. Let's try moving these up higher. This is looking pretty good to me. We'll see how this looks. Cropping it in. Yeah, I think that's about as good as I can get it. It has a little bit of glare in some places, but the colors, the focus, everything is pretty even and smooth, and it's really capturing the values very well when I compare it to the painting in person. Now I'm curious to see if this painting will photograph better. Actually, I like the previous one. I think the colors are more accurate. It's interesting how this painting's texture is so smooth that I could get a lot of light on it without any glare. But with this canvas texture, I had to sacrifice some of the brightness in order to make the glare go away. Now, as far as editing goes, we can make minor adjustments in the phone's photo editing tool. The goal here is not necessarily to try to make the painting look better, but make sure that the photo accurately represents what the painting looks like in person. There are several tools for adjusting the values and a few for the colors, but I would caution you not to go overboard here. If you follow the steps for the setup and got the white balance and exposure right, you really should have accurate colors and values of your painting. And I'll be making a new video soon on how to edit photos of your paintings using Photoshop. So that's going to get rid of any remaining glare in your painting and a whole number of things that will help your painting be ready for websites, portfolio, and even reproduction for prints. But that is how you take photographs of your paintings with a smartphone. So I hope you learned something from this video. I know I certainly did. And if you got something out of this, then please give this video a like and a subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this. So thank you for watching and have a beautiful day.